Welcome everybody to another edition of the Hurry Up. I'm your host Adam. Let's get into this. So, New York Giants played the Seattle Seahawks in a very tough game in the Pacific Northwest where they went to Seattle's hometown and they lost. Unfortunately, the Giants came out with a loss. A little disappointing because they were riding so high. I just expect a little different performance. They came out a little flat. They were outcoached. At least offensively, they were outcoached. Defensively, Wink does what Wink does, but, there were some breakdowns in his defensive backfield that they'll probably shore up during the offseason, but it was interesting to see. Seattle came out, and they really had a decent game plan from start to finish on offense. They took what they gave them. They were efficient. They took their shots, which helped loosen up the Giants' defense a little bit. Regardless of who it was, they took shots. They threw the ball downfield. They had at least 3 or 4 throws that were 20 or more yards downfield. And Geno was very accurate. Who would believe that we lost to Geno Smith? My God. He's playing great football right now. I shouldn't say great football. Really good football, the best of his career. But, that guy's been a laughingstock, and here he comes to Seattle, and he's got the Seattle team in the playoff hunt, in their division number one of the division. It's crazy. So, hats off to them. They had a good game plan. Offensively, the Giants, it was not their best performance. And by everybody, not just the quarterback. I know people got mad at me. The receiving core stinks. Barkley was bottled up. The offensive line was not good, giving up 5 sacks. John Feliciano, I'm sorry. Nick Gates, you got to start, man. You got to start. Just find the right combination. Now's the time. Now's the time to work it. You got a bye week. You got 10 days off. You're going to have a couple practice days, and then they're going to be off for, this weekend. So you'll probably be, at the facility on Wednesday, at the facility on Tuesday, at the facility on Thursday, and they're probably going to be off Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Come back again Monday to kind of regroup for the Texans or Detroit. Which one? One of them, those two. Either one. They're playing them next. I think it's the Texans. A game they should win. But in that time, you need to find out 2 things. One, the right combination on the offensive line. Because Josh Ezeudu is a rookie, and there's a reason why he was a 3rd-round pick. He's raw. He's still giving up some pressures. If you want to move Feliciano to guard and give the veteran experience there, because you don't know when Shane Lemieux is going to be back, and you don't know when Bredesen, who just went on IR, is going to be back, do that. If that's what's going to happen. Daniel already knows how to take snaps from Nick. They've been doing it for a year. It's not like it's going to be something foreign to him. And really cram on Nick Gates. I'm not trying to rush Nick Gates back. I'm sure they have a plan with him, but that's what I would do on the offensive line. Because right now, the offensive line is one of the big reasons why we lost that game yesterday. If you can blame the receivers, I would say it's a combination of just everything. It was one of those things where the Giants didn't play well, and then when nobody elevates them, either Barkley or Daniel, in this case, could have been Daniel, that's what happens. When one thing is not working, you need something else to work, and nothing worked for the Giants offense. Well, yesterday. They had a couple screens, couple times when they could have changed the game. I know the fumbles were key. Richie James, he's probably on the unemployment line, by the way. It's funny because he actually had a decent return that was negated by some holding penalty. But you're like, oh, man, okay, Richie, we can do it. And then, of course, I think the fumbles for me are egregious because they were contact fumbles, but it wasn't like, he got hit and boom, the ball popped loose. He barely got touched on those fumbles and they fell out of his hands. And it was like, those are the type that get you because it's like, the fumble that Tyler Lockett had, that was a forced play. Adoree Jackson, by the way, is playing out of his mind corner. That guy's going to the Pro Bowl. I don't care. I know he doesn't have the interception numbers, but the boy can play, and he's playing a lot better than a lot of people think. And he's coming up and being physical. Love it. Love the way Adoree Jackson's playing. So glad he's here. But what he did to Tyler Lockett was a forced fumble or a strip, whatever you want to call it, right? This wasn't even forced. He wasn't even hit. He just caught the ball. He kind of got nudged. Did a spin move. One falls out. The other ball comes out. And then the thing about Seattle is, like, most teams aren't around the ball. Well, their special teams, hats off to them, were around the football both times. And they were able to pounce on it. Usually the Giants have avoided these disastrous mistakes. And the fact that the offense wasn't playing didn't help much either. The offense generated outside of the turnover where they got the ball, where we got the ball at the 1 yard line, 6 points. 6 points. Let that sink in. So that's a lot of points, you know. And meanwhile, Seattle, who, you know, can put up points at the best of them, put up 27, you know, but at the end of the day, it felt like it could have been more from them. Like, this game was so interesting because I had so much anxiety watching it. Like, oh my God, here we are. This is the first true test of the playoff teams we're going to be facing down the stretch. Now that you got a bullseye on your back, those teams are going to come in and want to do exactly what Seattle did. And that's stop the run and have some fun, man. I mean, like, they got to Daniel. I don't know if they rattled Daniel. I know that you know, the receivers weren't on the same page, but the offensive game plan in general was not good. They came out and their first series didn't give the ball to Barkley in the opening series. I get it, you know, they're stacking the run, but, you know, come on. Your best player is your best player. I mean, you saw what Seattle did. They kept giving it to Kenneth Walker, and he was getting bottled up. He was a shoestring away from breaking some. But they kept giving it to him, and at the end of the day, what happened? He scores a touchdown, right? You got to do that with Barkley. Barkley is a back that gets better as the game goes on, and the more carries he gets, the more touches he gets. The times you're doing it, limiting it, is not helping. The passing, I just think there was no flow to the game. I don't know if that's because of what they were doing defensively, but I just felt like the Giants could never get in a rhythm. They could never get their offense in a rhythm where, because it was like basically they took away Barkley, they put a little bit of a spy on Daniel, which really didn't put a spy. They kind of had their defensive line play spy, where it was like they did a mush rush, where they would come up the field and they would rush, and they would come up the field and they would rush, and then they were just waiting to see where Daniel went, and then when they went, they would take off after him. And that's kind of what happened a lot of the time with them. And Daniel had some times where he broke out and he, you know, he would be chased by a defender, and you're like, man, I wish he could have wiggled out of it. Like, there was one boot where he broke a guy, like he broke a tackle, or he juked a guy, and then all of a sudden he's getting tackled at the, you know, after like getting 3 yards, it's like he got tackled. You're like, dude, where's the wiggle? Where's the, you know, the juice? And so I don't know, maybe his lateral movement's bad, because I know I see he's wearing a knee brace, but there's some things that be out there that left to be desired. The receiving core, you know, they were well defended. I mean, look, Wando Robinson tries to make a catch, the defender's right on him. You know, Tanner Hudson tries to make a catch, you know, gets hit, the ball comes out. I mean, you got to make plays. You know, at the end of the day, you got to make plays with who's out there. I get people say, well, you know, Giants are going to get a receiver. I don't know. We'll see what happens. You know, Denver came out with a post saying they weren't going to trade a receiver. Now, my question is, do we know if, for a fact, that Jerry Jeudy helps you win that game? Because if he doesn't, you know, it's a moot point. I mean, he does bring another valuable weapon to the field. I'm just saying, you know, just playing devil's advocate here, you know, because you got to get acclimated to the system. I know that McCaffrey helped out with the 49ers, so I'm sure Jeudy would at least help out and maybe open something up for Robinson. But they were getting open. I mean, you know, they had Slayton on the dig route. He was open a couple times. So they had some open ings to hit passes. They didn't hit them, you know, or they were out of rhythm, or they were well covered. Again, hats off to the Seattle defense. You know, they made the Giants' offense miserable. So we'll see. I'm not going to blame. Like, the offense entirely was putrid. The entire thing. It was just one of those things where, wow, 13 points. I feel like I'm in Joe Judge's offense, but they just didn't do much. They didn't have much pizzazz. They didn't have much razzle dazzle. And of course, when the other team's offense is just bing bang boom down the field, it kind of becomes more challenging, and every possession becomes that much more important. I think the Giants were out efficient. Right, out. They're out coached, but they got played into their own game. They made mistakes. They had penalties. You know, they're a little bit undisciplined here and there, and that's what costs you in the football. At the end of the day, when you look at it, that's what costs you a football game. And then the performance of the offense, you know, you'd hope to be a little bit better than that. And let's hope then they find somebody to bring in. I mean, we don't know yet. There's speculation about Jeudy. He would be good. There's Jeudy. There's Cooks right now that are really the names that we're hearing. And then there was Chase Claypool, but I'm not sure how much that is. But let me break down both Cooks and Jeudy real quick. I like them both. I prefer Jeudy. I'll go with Jeudy first. Judy's younger, a little bit more swag in his game. He's going to cost a little bit less. And he's actually what the Giants are looking for. He can play in the slot. He can probably play outside. He's a little bit more of a big-bodied receiver, but he's got some speed too. So that allows you to do more things with him in terms of where you line him up. Brandon Cooks is a burner and is an absolute stud. But you're gonna pay for him a little bit more. He's a little older, and he has $18 million guaranteed on the contract in 2023. So but he could probably be had, Brandon Cooks, for a lot cheaper than Jerry Jeudy, right? If it's Brandon Cooks for a third rounder, Brandon Cooks for like a fifth rounder, and we work out some salary cap details, or Jerry Jeudy for a third rounder, then it just becomes what you're willing to give up. And if you're willing to just say, hey, fine, this guy's going to be here anyways, we'll get him, we'll figure him under the cap, fine, then do it. I think they would probably prefer Jeudy, but I don't know how much capital they want to give up. It depends on what you feel. If you don't think you get a guy in the second round that can do what Jeudy does, because let's be honest, this person, whoever comes in, is going to be here probably with Wan'Dale Robinson now that Tony's gone, right? We definitely know Tony's gone. So you can't even count on him. Like we were going down the roster and it was 50-50 on whether or not he's gone. He's totally gone now. Not going to be here, nothing. But then you think Galladay's probably not going to be here. And then there's Darius Slayton and everybody else, right? Obviously, Sills and all those guys. You need a whole revamping of the receiving corps. So if you think that Jerry Jeudy's going to bring that better value, then you get him. And he's cheaper. See, I was talking about it with somebody the other day. If you're going to sign Daniel to a big deal, which I would, after this performance, I'm back on the not a long-term deal with him. But let's say you sign him, right? And you sign him to a pretty modest deal. What happens is if you don't bring in those players early, you're going to have to do through the draft, right, with a lot of rookies. If you do the opposite and you draft your quarterback and you have him under the rookie salary, you can bring in a little bit more free agents and try to, offset some of the learning curve that you have. So there's many different ways to build a team. They're not foolproof. They don't always work. Just the trends that you're seeing around the NFL is, hey, we got a guy on a rookie deal. Look at the Eagles, right? That's why they can bring in A.J. Brown. They haven't paid him yet. Unlike the Cowboys, who are looking to probably trade for a receiver and get them under contract, because guess what? Now they have Jerry Jeudy. Now they have Dak Prescott that they paid. So you got to bring in some cheaper talent. And Amari Cooper left. So this is what I'm saying. Like, those are the type of things you have to juggle with in your head when you make this trade. This trade is going to make the Giants better regardless of what happens. Whether that's they keep the draft picks and they draft a player, or they parlay those into some other picks, it should be better. But clearly, they need some type of help on the receiving end. But I wonder if getting the ball to the tight end more, number 83, he looked good. He was actually blocking, looked like he could block. Looks like they might have found somebody in that gate. But if you can get Lawrence Krager to kind of fill in a void, maybe that's what you could use. Maybe upgrading at a tight end could help you out, because it just looked like you needed somebody to make a play. Like you had the tight end streaking down the field, the ball was overthrown. He was wide open again in the middle of the field, the ball wasn't thrown to him. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's exciting. Giants are still 6-2 and heading into the bye week. Got a lot of corrections they can make, and let's hope they make some of these corrections, and we'll see what happens going forward. I'm not going to say we shouldn't take any team lightly. I know the Texans and Detroit are coming up, but it's the NFL. Any given Sunday, you see how hard it is to win against a team that you thought you were better than. It's hard. Every game is going to be hard from here on out until we get to the playoffs. But let's see what the Giants do. This brass seems to have their pulse in the team, so I'm sure they're going to make some kind of deal in the next 24 to 48 hours. And let's hope this person can come in and get acclimated real quick. This is the perfect time you can bring in a person like that. You have the bye week, they can cram with you. You can basically build a game plan around them, try to get some plays in. and see what happens. But hey, this has been another edition of the Hurry Up. Unfortunately, the Giants lost. Troubling game to the Seattle Seahawks, but we'll see what comes of it. Giants still 6-2. You still got to look at the positives and see what they're going to do. All right? Like, subscribe. I'm out.